Okay. So I am Lisa Finney. I am a 38-year-old. Um, just turned 38 years old. I live in a small town in upstate New York. I have a 2-year-old and I'm currently 16 weeks pregnant.
So, so let me start here is I want to hear your Cushing's journey. I want to hear about how it's affected your mental health, the mental health of those around you, including your 2-year-old, your husband, your parents, your job, and the outside
Okay.
world. You are the only Cushy that I am interviewing that works outside of the home.
Oh, wow.
So, and and on top of that, growing a
A
human.
human.
So
So fun.
high five to you.
Thank you.
Definitely applaud you. I don't even know how you managed to get out of bed, but definitely great job. So, but
Thank you.
want to tell us about your journey? We would love to hear it.
All right. So, it's funny because the less you know, I think the more that you're capable of doing. Because, like, when I got on all these support groups and things like that, and I found out that people like, typically don't go back to work or have a really hard time going back to work, I'm like, oh, geez. Yeah. So I feel a little bit more validated that I'm like, no wonder why my days are, I get through a day and I'm just so exhausted and so run down. But then I just get up and do it again the next day because that's just what I know to do. So yeah, I am a teacher of the deaf and hard of hearing. Um, and I probably fought my Cushing's battle for at least 10 years before it actually went diagnosed. I was officially diagnosed when I in 2018, 2017, 2018, but not after a lot of struggle. I had gone to every doctor known to man. I had a kidney doctor. I had gone to numerous endocrinologists. I had been to I was in a hematology oncology office because they thought maybe I had a slow form of leukemia because my white blood cell count was so high. Um, I was 30 years old. I had high blood pressure. I had gained a ton of weight, even though I exercised and ate so healthy. I had been to two weight loss doctors who basically told me that I wasn't trying hard enough and that I needed to leave their practice because everything that they are suggesting should have worked for me, which it had not. Um, I had given up so many times. I basically thought I was crazy and I would pursue it for a little bit and I would get so far and then it would just everything would fall to the wayside. Another doctor would be like, "Yeah, there's nothing wrong with you. We've done all the tests. All your tests came back fine. We don't know. There's nothing wrong with you. You just have a slow metabolism." So it finally got to the point where all the doctors were saying to me, well, you just must have a higher white blood cell count than the norm. You must just have a higher blood pressure level than the norm. You must just have a really slow metabolism. So they just kept making me think, okay, well, I guess I am normal for me, but my norm is like completely not the norm.
Yes.
So, so it was really frustrating. And my breaking point was in 2017. I had to go in for emergency back surgery. And all of my doctors were like, okay, this is not right. Your blood pressure is so high. Your white blood cell count is so high. This emergency surgery left me with extreme nerve damage. It took me over a year and a half to get the nerve damage basically kind of reversed. Um I could not urinate by myself, so I had to catheterize and I still worked.
Oh
So
my
I still
goodness.
was teaching,
Oh my
but
God.
I literally had to go into the bathroom and catheterize myself because of the nerve damage from the back and everything. But come to find out, it all was Cushing's related. Um, Basically, my body had just broke down. It said it could not do this anymore, and it just broke down and said, "Nope, I can't do this." Um, and through it all, I was still just like, all right, well, this is just one more thing we got to get through. Um, and it was really through that situation that I feel like the doctors might have started listening to me a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I ended up, my hematologist oncologist, who thought I had slow developing leukemia, sent me to a kidney doctor a nephrologist, because they said, well, there's no, if you have this high blood pressure, such high blood pressure, even on medication at your age, there's something else going on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and when I was at that doctor's, they did a whole bunch of blood work, and I thought I was actually getting somewhere. And I just remember the doctor coming in and, you know, patting the table like, come here, sweetheart. Let's look at your results. And basically he said everything we found was normal. And I just broke down. I just started crying because I was like, I thought that this was the doctor that was going to help me.
And you feel
And
defeated.
I don't know what in me, just because I don't like to I don't like to show weakness, especially in a doctor's office. So I don't know what that day, just it was just everything just piled on top, and I just started crying. And he was like, I go, can you please just show me my results? I just want to look at my results. And I've never said that for myself either. So I was a super big advocate for myself that day, which I'm really proud of, because if I wasn't, I don't know if I would still be here. So he basically got scrolled through all these pages on his laptop, and it was around like the eighth page where it said cortisol levels, and I think they were like 264. And they were
Blood,
in red.
blood
They were
cortisol.
in red, and he was like, "Oh my God." And he just stopped. He dropped his laptop on the table. He went out, didn't say anything to me, went out of the room, brought back probably five other doctors with him. And he basically started doing all the checks for Cushing's. So he basically checked out to see if I had a buffalo hump, which I don't, which is interesting, but I have fatty clavicle,
Yeah, the
right?
neck.
Like right here. Um, I had the dark purple striations on my belly. I definitely have a Cushing's belly, but I don't necessarily have the skinny arms or the skinny legs like that, which a lot of Cushing's people tend to have.
Mhm.
So I definitely had a mood face, but I can't say that I looked like a typical Cushing's person. Um, and I don't know if that's why I got missed so many times or what, but I remember he immediately got on his phone. He he had called an endocrinologist in the area, and they basically started testing that day. And the next morning they opened the office just for me at 8 a.m. before 8 a.m. because the test had to be done before 8 a.m. Um, and that just got the ball rolling. And I got into the endocrinologist, and she basically was like, yes, you have a pituitary microadenoma. I think it was like 5.6 measured millimeters or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, and that's really where it all started to go down.
Well, so wow, I didn't know that whole story about you. I didn't know about your back or any of that. So
Mhm.
that's new information. And so my frustration comes with, why do you have to be in such severe pain,
Mhm.
or why does something marked in red go
Right.
unnoticed, and you have to be at your breaking point in tears to say, hey, let's look at this together. Let's look at this just one more
Right.
time. And
Right.
in the short time that I've known you, you aren't as outspoken
No.
as I am, because I'm like, hey, I want this answer and I want it now. And you're
Hmm.
like, I think I'm gonna ask.
Yeah.
you know,
It's hard for me to be an advocate like I need to be. And I know that, but then I also know like I don't know, sometimes I'm just like I can just do it. I can handle it. I'm fine.
and I
And
that
it's been hard like I've also had I've had two miscarriages in there basically in within that same time. So, I thought that I not having any answers was really hard. And so I think that actually was my driving force to figure out what was going on. It wasn't like the back issue. It was a lot to do with the weight because I just kept gaining weight and I literally felt like I was going to blow up and explode because I just kept gaining so much weight.
so we're similar in age, but you just said something that flipped this switch in my brain. And I just remember saying to David, I just have to turn violet, because all I could
Hmm.
think is Willy Wonka. And she just kept blowing and blowing and blowing. And they're like, we have to help her before she explodes. And she's blown
Yes.
off by the Oompa Loompas. And that's literally how I felt.
Yes.
And I remember,
100%. I felt that before too. I feel like I'm Violet from Willy Wonka and I just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it didn't matter what you do, you just couldn't lose any weight.
and it was almost like the more you work out, the worse.
Yes. Yes, because I worked out every day, sometimes twice, sometimes three times a day. And my doctors did tell me afterwards that that actually was probably doing more damage because I was stressing my body out more by doing the exercising, creating more cortisol.
Yep. Yeah. So basically, when they're telling you, as my friend Kim put it, uh, eat less and move more, that more movement is
Correct.
actually bad.
Detrimental. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And the day, so you and I actually met under interesting circumstances. So we were both round two surgery, and
Hmm.
my surgery piggybacked yours.
Hmm.
And then we were told to move more
Yeah.
while in the recovery room. And we got up and walked the halls together. And
Hmm.
know, we're 7-Eleven friends, surgery
Yes.
sisters. But that very morning, my surgery was delayed due to complications.
Because of me.
And while I was sitting in there, one of the nurses who was preparing me, and I ended up making David leave. I'm like, it's going to be a long day. I need you to go. I need you to be rested because I need you afterwards. And the nurse comes in and she goes, that Cushing's is just like sleep deprivation. You just need to sleep more and it'll help you a lot. And I just kind of looked at her and started crying all over again.
Oh my gosh.
Like, sleep is the one thing I've
Yes.
not been able to get for 5 years.
Because it's also there's so much misinformation within or non-information within the medical field. So like so I had so in 2017 was the back surgery, 2018 was my first brain surgery, which was successful. Um and it was successful for what, 4 years, 5 years, and then it came back. So it's just frustrating because it's like this whole journey, everyone, nobody has answers for you. Nobody has answers. Even the professionals that this is what they do is Cushing, they don't know what to do. Currently, they don't know what to tell me. I'm pregnant. So it's like, how much hydrocortisone should I take? I don't know. They don't know. Nobody knows what to tell me. So I'm just kind of having to wing it, which really is scary because you always look to your medical professionals to be the experts. And unfortunately, there's not really, I don't feel like experts in the field. which is really frustrating.
And I do have to say, personally, with our medical team, since
Hmm.
you and I have the same team, I do have more faith in them than anybody else.
Oh, 100%.
And they are still like, I don't know.
I don't know.
I
All the time. Like, yeah, because you'll ask, and I trust them through everything. I know people have gone different places, and I have heard horror stories about their care. And it makes me just so thankful of the care that we have received. But at the same time, it's still like, I'm going to ask this I always say this when I go in there. I'm going to ask this question. And I know you can't give me an answer, but I just want you to know that I'm asking this question so that we can at least write it down.
Yep.
But
So you have a very interesting um situation that has arisen with both of your surgeries has brought you a blessing.
yes,
However, the timing of this blessing,
very peculiar.
would you like to elaborate on thing one and thing two?
Yes. So we had tried, my husband and I have been together for 20 years. We had tried to have children the whole time, practically. And like I said, we had several miscarriages in there. Um, and then after my first surgery, um, we did get pregnant, but we had a miscarriage after my first surgery. And then COVID happened. The world shut down. And I think just because of the slower pace and things like, my body was just like, okay, you can do this. So I had thing one, um, who is now 2 years old. She's amazing and beautiful and perfect. Um, and we kind of were at the point where we thought she was going to be our one and only, and we were, okay with that. And I just really wanted my body to get super healthy, um, get back to, just making it the most healthy it can possibly be, eating right, exercising, resting, because that's what I'm really, really bad at is resting. And I blame that on Cushing's
Mhm.
100% because I feel like with Cushing's, like for me, my Cushing's, I always wanted to go. Like I always had to do something. If you're sitting still, you just feel antsy and like you could crawl out of your own skin sometimes.
And you can't focus.
And you can't focus on anything. So you're just like, I just need to move. That's how it is for me. And everyone always jokes, like, you are the energizer bunny, you don't ever stop. And I'm like, I can't stop because when I stop, I get antsy and I don't like that feeling of like, literally, I have felt like I want to crawl out of my own skin before.
Yeah. It's
Um,
consuming.
yeah. So this time around, had surgery on July 11th, and just found out that we are like 16 weeks almost pregnant. So, I just thought it was all the hormonal craziness of Cushing's. Um, I was having a really hard time with recovery, a really hard time with recovery. But then I thought it was just because I have a full-time job. Actually, I have a full-time job and a part-time job, and I'm a mom. And I just chalked it up to I was just having a really hard time with recovery this time because I have all these things going on, which I had a full-time job last time and a part-time job last time, but I didn't have a 2-year-old.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, things have gotten a little crazy.
Well, that's super exciting. It's
Very exciting, very nerve-wracking.
and
Um,
what are your biggest what are you most nervous about at this point?
Everything. I'm really nervous. I just hope that, you know, everything leading up. Because when I went to have Ellie, I made sure that like my body was in really good shape. I just make sure that I ate healthy. I was taking all the good supplements. I was doing meditation and yoga and like just getting everything in line and to be like the most perfect vessel to bring her into this world. And this time I feel like it's the exact opposite. Like the exact opposite. I was just trying to survive a day. So I'm nervous. I don't know what medications you don't know what could have an effect on the development of the baby and all of that. So there's that whole piece of it, and then there's the other piece that I'm nervous about the actual delivery part, because that's a huge stress on your body, and to make sure that you have enough stress hormone stress dose in your body to be able to have a baby.
Yeah.
So I've always been like, I would never want a C-section. I've always wanted just natural. I'm a little crunchy, as my friends call it. But honestly, like I almost would just rather have a C-section so that they can stress dose me so they can get the baby in, get out, get me stabilized. Um, it's just a scary thought. Like all of it is just scary. Like to make sure you have enough, because with the secondary adrenal insufficiency, you could die. If you don't have your steroids, you can die.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I have a 2-year-old. I have to think about that 2-year-old. I have to think about the baby, so it's just a lot.
It is a lot.
It's a lot to think about.
I couldn't imagine. And basically what it comes down to with being in remission from Cushing's is now your body's not making any steroids.
Correct. So what's the lesser of the evils? I
So,
think about it all the time.
yeah. So in my personal opinion, Cushing's has made me a control freak. And I I didn't want to test anymore. I was sick of testing to get an updose for a cortisol suppressant, and it was too much. So now I can take more if I need it, but I have control of how much steroid is in my body instead of my brain having control of how much steroid is in my body. And so with you, and you're kind of like a guinea pig for them now because they don't know how to, because one of the biggest problems with Cushing's is the ability to get pregnant.
Right.
So this is not something they're used to.
Right. Exactly. So I feel like too, it's like, is it better to, because I've been in remission before. And I'm not gonna lie, like you think about Cushing's all the time. Every little symptom, you're like, is my Cushing's coming back? Is my Cushing's coming back? So I don't know if it's better to have Cushing's and then go in remission, or is it better to have Cushing's and then just stay adrenal insufficient for the rest of your life? Because at least if you're adrenal insufficient, you're not getting Cushing's again.
Yeah, very true. So
you know what I mean? So that's something I think about all the time.
So
like, what is the lesser of the evil? Because your brain is constantly thinking.
Yeah.
And like the moment some of my hair starts to fall out, which right now it's falling out like it literally in clumps. And I'm like, is this Cushing's? Well, yes, it was.
Yeah.
It was. That was one of my major signs that Cushing's had come back, was because my hair started falling out in clumps and I started gaining a ton of weight. And I couldn't blame it on baby weight, because when I was pregnant, I didn't even look as big as I do now with Cushing's. I was much small. I had lost over 70 pounds after my first surgery.
Yeah. And it takes a toll on you because
Yes.
you feel like you're going crazy.
Hmm.
And and
All the time.
and we drive ourselves crazy on top of it
Correct.
because what is this? What is this? And then you have that medical PTSD where it's like I need
Yes.
to start logging all
Yes.
this now and making a chart now because if something is wrong, I need it from day one written down so somebody believes me.
Yes. There is so much PTSD associated with it. Um, there's so much. Like even having to go and schedule another MRI or anything. It's
Yeah.
like the anxiety goes through the roof and you're like, okay, just a lot of self-talk. You can do this. You're strong. You've done this before. You know what to do. Your body can do this.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because like the other day somebody said to me, "Holy cow, your body is so amazing."
It really
And
is.
I was like, every once in a while I'm like, dang, my body has worked so hard for me. But for so long, I was so mad at my body for doing this to me that I couldn't see how strong it is. And like now, especially with growing a human right after brain surgery,
During brain surgery. I
during or
didn't know yet.
whatever, it's just unfathomable. Like, holy cow, my body is amazing. Like this body, I just need to give it its praises every day because it has not let me down.
Yeah.
It has
Yeah.
not let me down, even though I've been through a lot and I've had a lot of bumps in the road. I feel like I just need to be able to, and I think that's part of society too, is like all the body shaming of being fat,
Yes.
and it's like I always looked down on my body because of how big I was for all those years and just thinking it was my fault. And it was my body's fault that it was fat because I was doing everything I needed to do, but it couldn't get it together. And now it's like, I don't know, I feel like I have a whole different perspective.
I can definitely agree with that. I Our bodies have been through a lot, a lot, a lot.
And
And
that's what the OBGYN was reading my medical history. They were like, holy cow. Like you have been through so much. And I was like, that's not even the half of it. You're just reading whatever's on the chart that you're getting. Like
that's just the physical part.
this is not even, but like I said, I feel like my anxiety is terrible. It's been terrible for years, and that is a Cushing's thing as well. Um, but I feel like I have a lot of strategies that you have to use, but it's hard. It's all hard.
Powering through
Hmm.
is basically what it comes down to.
Yep.
And I think that we intoxicate ourselves almost with that mindset of I just have to push. I just have to get through this. I just have to get through this. And I think a lot of that comes from Cushing's is
Oh yeah.
you have to push through everything, but that's also the worst thing to do to your body. But
Correct.
and then recovering from brain surgery, it's hard to shut off that mindset. Like you don't have
Hmm.
that ambition anymore, but you still have that mindset of I
Right.
gotta go. I gotta keep going.
I just gotta do it. I gotta get through it.
Yeah.
And that's like an everyday thing. Like I wake up in the morning, I get dressed to go to work, and I have stuff to be. You can do this. You got to get through it.
I just have
And
to slow
people say all
down.
the time, well, why don't you take a leave of absence or why don't you do this or why don't you do that? And I love what I do, so I wouldn't want to. I love what I do. I also need the health insurance because obviously Cushing's is not like a thing that just it doesn't go away. It's a life thing, which is really hard to hear, but it is. It's a life thing. You have to get tested at least once a year, or if there's more, you know what I mean? It's a life thing and it's scary, but it is. And you have to have really darn good health insurance. Otherwise, you're going to go broke.
Yeah. And
So that's another whole stressor that people don't even think about. But honestly, it's one of the biggest things I think about is the health insurance.
well, and the mental health support of getting out of the house, the, seeing your coworkers and your students, and that has to be a big motivator too.
Right.
I don't personally know because I work from home and I'm schooling from home and now homeschooling one of my children. I don't get out too much. Um, but when I do, it really is motivating to see other adults and have real face-to-face
Mhm.
conversation. So we are actually getting a little short on time. We have a little over 5 minutes left. But what I did have two other questions that I wanted to ask you. And if you're
Yep.
comfortable answering them, awesome. If not, that's fine too. But one of the biggest challenges for me with Cushing's has been as a parent. And
Mhm.
have you heard of ACEs before?
No.
Adverse childhood experiences. And it's basically when children grow up in a home with a parent that is sick or disabled or an addict, or
Mhm.
there can be residual effects on children. And do you think that what you've experienced before and after having your first child, do you think that how does it affect your parenting for her?
I think that she's so young that I'm not sure that she's going to remember. She will tell me sometimes, "Oh, mommy's body hurts," or "Mommy tired." But she relates my tiredness to being like, "Okay, I could watch Coco Melon now." Mommy tired. Let's sit down and watch Coco Melon. Okay. So I don't feel like for her, I don't feel like she sees it. I don't know if it will have an effect on her now
Mm-hmm.
because she just looks at it as a snuggle time.
Yeah.
Okay, let's snuggle. Or, a lot of times right after surgery, people would step up and come and get her for me and take her to the park or take her here or take her there. So I feel like it's almost like a positive thing in her mind now because she's like, "Oh, I'm going to go with so and so. And we're
Mm-hmm.
going to go play at the park and we're going to go have McDonald's." And you know what I mean? I don't feel like for her being so young
Yeah, that's awesome.
that and I just feel like that was meant to be. Like all this has been meant to be.
Yes. No, and I can agree with that definitely. Sorry about the dog. We're
It's okay. I don't know where mine went. I'm a
um,
little nervous.
so and we only have about 3 minutes. I don't know if that's enough time if you choose to answer, but you and your husband have been together for 20
20
years.
years. Mhm.
So I pray for him because I know what it's been like for my husband. We've been together for 18. Um, how has it affected your relationship?
I would say that my husband is one of those type of guys that just doesn't want to deal with any emotion at all. So honestly, I feel like it's harder. It might be hard for him, but he would never express that it's hard for him. After my first brain surgery, he was like, "Do I have to stay the night?" So I'm like, "Yes, you have to stay the night. Like, I need you." Um, so I feel like he just doesn't really show how it affects him.
Mhm.
And
What?
if it does, it's in weird ways. Like he'll be like, "Well, he almost like he withdraws. So I'm left alone. And then I have such an amazing angel support group for real. They're amazing. They step up because they know that he can't handle it.
Mhm.
What he will do, he will go out and he will go work in the woods. He will go do, he will go out in his shop and he fixes things. But that's how he handles it.
Hmm.
He might give me a kiss on the forehead at night and say, "How you doing?" But he really doesn't really want to know the answer.
Yeah.
So, he's just completely withdrawal. And honestly, it's been so much of our relationship. I have been sick that it's just kind of like, yeah,
Almost like a normal.
yeah, it's almost normal for us to be
Yeah.
like, yep, you have another doctor's appointment. Okay. He doesn't go with me to them.
Yeah.
He doesn't go with me to doctor's appointments. Um, he doesn't want to know. He doesn't want to ask questions. He would rather ignore all of it.
So we have less than a minute, but you are super understanding and empathetic towards his feelings, but how does that make you feel?
It used to hurt me, but now I have such an amazing group of people that step up and we this is just who he is.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of stuff that he has from growing up and it's
No
okay.
no judgment. We
It's
tried to
okay.
introduce our husbands in the hospital and
Yep.
neither one of them were interested.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yep, absolutely.
That's just who he is.
I agree
Hmm.
100%. Well, Lisa, I hate to cut you off, but it was so nice chatting with you. And thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for this. And congrats on the little bundles. And I can't wait to
Say
meet.
lots of prayers, good thoughts,
Yeah,
send good vibes.
absolutely. I love you, girl. Do
All
good.
right, love you too. Thank you.